Bakhmut? The Russian command is trying to solve the problem of a shortage of shells near Bakhmut. Especially after their main depot in Ermino was destroyed, and the consequences of this destruction are already affecting the combat effectiveness of their grouping near Bakhmut. At present, the relatively proportional accumulation of Russian artillery near Bakhmut, which allowed them to use the barrage tactic, is now not supplied with ammunition in a proportional manner, as a result of which the barrels are, so to speak, idle and do not fully perform their functions. It is the lack of shells that the occupants are talking about in this video. They simply have nothing to shoot with. This is what I periodically talk about in my videos, the tactic of the Ukrainian army, first to deprive the enemy of logistics and ammunition, and then to attack. This circumstance has not only slowed down the intensity of operations of the Russian forces in the northern and southern directions from Bakhmut, but also allowed the AFU to conduct a number of very successful counteroffensive throws with the return of important positions. In other words, the artillery factor fails the occupiers even at Bakhmut. And this is currently the only location in the combat zone where the occupants' artillery was at least in relative balance with the main units. In other words, in the long term, artillery may disappear from the Russian forces as a determining factor. Quite expected. And you doubted it. On the topic of the 20-kilometer operating zone on the left bank. As is well known, to minimize losses, the Russian troops are withdrawing some units from this zone. But what is interesting is that a number of units of the 127th Brigade are being withdrawn permanently and irrevocably. The reason? Well, clearly not the coronavirus outbreak. The 127th Brigade is a unit of the GRU, Military Unit 67606 of the city of Sevastopol, temporarily occupied Crimea. Except that on the left bank for the last couple of months they did not perform their specific, highly specialized tasks, but stupidly tolerated. They endured 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the attacks from AFU artillery. The result? Part of a specific and highly specialized unit that takes years to nurture and educate, was ground up in its misuse. I think in the near future there will be many photos from the funerals of representatives of this particular brigade in open sources. Kreminna. The Ukrainian armed forces have achieved full fire control over the section of Route 66 from Kreminna to Severodonetsk. Now the occupants will not be able to drive calmly along this segment for even 5 kilometers. Kreminna was cut off from Severodonetsk. Previously, fire control was established on Route 66 from the northern direction, and more recently the occupants have also come to terms with the physical presence of the AFU on this segment at a number of locations. Therefore, we can already cautiously, but state a serious logistical problem of the occupants in the area of Kreminna. Yes. So far we are talking only about fire control. But that is where it all begins. First fire control, then physical control, and that's it. Kreminna is one step closer to liberation, which means that the AFU is one step closer to destroying the defense of the Russian troops in this location and further, given the shakiness of the overall defense of the Russians. Before you put your reaction under the video and subscribe to the channel, I want to say goodbye to you and wish you a peaceful sky over your head. Have a good day.